Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my April wrap-up video. I can't believe I'm wrapping up April. I feel like I just filmed my March wrap-up video and my April TBR. And as you will see from this video, I did not read many books that I had set out to read in my TBR. But that's okay because I picked up a lot of these on the whim and a lot of them released and I was super excited, so I went out to buy a copy. But anyway, I will be filming a separate May TBR video because May is API Heritage Month and I'm going to be involved in a lot of readathons and a lot of really cool projects, so I will be leaving that for an entire video where I can talk about it and just take my time giving you recommendations. Whereas for this one, we're just going to talk about the books that I read in April because I read a ton and they were all so good. Actually, some of them were so good. Some of them were May, but the majority of the books that I read this month were amazing. So anyway, the first book that I read in April is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I actually did mention this in my TBR that I was currently reading, and I was having a good old time reading this book. My boyfriend is currently borrowing it now, so unfortunately I only have the dust jacket. I get really anxious when people borrow my books, but I trust him. Anyway, this book is super interesting. It's a fantasy novel that was very unexpected for me because I have been reading a lot of fantasy novels, but I'm not a really good fantasy reader, and by that I mean I tend to get confused a lot when it comes to fantasy books because I like world building, it just doesn't like build in my head. Like I don't see images of the world in my head, so it makes it hard to visualize. Anyway, so this fantasy book basically follows a cast of characters that switches in POV, and it kind of just follows them as their lives revolve around this one prophecy, and at the end of the book it's like an all-fulfilling prophecy, and it's super interesting. That's all I'm gonna say, really. It features some non-binary and queer side characters as well as one of our main characters who is queer. It was just a really great book. I really loved the banter between the characters. It just reminded me of like the Six of Crows like banter between the crows that I missed so much, and I love banter in fantasy books. That's like my love language. But anyways, this book especially, one of the things that she did so well was just like dangling the information over your head and revealing it slowly as not to lose the reader but to keep you interested, and the pacing was just beautiful, and every second of this book I never wanted to end. I'm so excited for the second one, and I will not shut up about this book. So definitely read this book if you are interested in some diverse fantasy. Okay, so these next 3 books here, I actually did a reading vlog for this, so you should go check it out. I read 3 books that were recommended to me by my favorite authors. So the first one that I have here is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which was recommended to me by Minjin Lee. This is an introduction by her. Overall, this is like my 3rd time rereading The Great Gatsby, and I don't think it was like a new experience. It is my favorite classic book. I mean, that's not really saying much out of all the classic books that I've read, but it's just a different experience when you're reading a classic book, and I just don't think I was in the mood to read like The Great Gatsby and do like a whole like deep dive into it, but I did appreciate the introduction that Minjin Lee wrote, which was actually really cool. If you do get a chance to get this edition, I will link it in the description. Minjin Lee offers really good literary analysis, a historical analysis as well, but she also talks about her own writing, which I love hearing about her talk about her writing. It's just so refreshing. So I definitely recommend this one. It was interesting. I would really love to watch the movie again because, unpopular opinion, I actually love the movie. So anyway, this was a very interesting read in my month. The next book I read for that video is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Deeshaw Philyaw. This was also really unexpected for me. This was recommended by author Brandy Colbert, and this is a short story collection following black church ladies, black women who go to church, and it explores their relationship and their desires and their sexuality away from the church. So it's kind of like their lives away from the church when they're not at church. Obviously, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. This was absolutely amazing. It was just like a whole new introduction to short stories. I am not a big fan of short story collections, but I took it as a good sign that this was a good one because I wanted more of each story. Like I could easily read like an entire book of each story. I know everyone says that for this book. I've read so many reviews and everyone was like, I want more of these stories and I want more of these characters. I think for the length of these stories, and a lot of them varied in length, she did such a great job at like developing her characters and giving them like personalities. Like these characters just like leaped off the page for me. They were like complicated and realistic and very developed, and I love the short stories as well, how they played in structure and form. I think if you're a reader like that, someone who appreciates good structure and like different forms in their writing, I would definitely recommend this short story collection because she does really play with the form of her writing. There's one that's like in a letter format, and then there's one that's also like in kind of like a list format. The voice changes between each story. Oh, it's just like beautifully written and really well executed, so I highly recommend this one. I've been recommending it ever since I read it. It's a short read as well. You'll finish it and it'll leave such a big impact on you. And the last book that I've read for that video is Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. This book, I'm still going over my thoughts about it and where I stand with this one. As it stands right now, I've given it a 3.5 stars, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it. I actually ended it and really enjoyed it, and I loved the ending. Like, the ending, oh, was everything that I wanted from this story that took forever to read. I feel like it took forever, but this is a fantasy novel that is inspired by Mughal India. It is a South Asian inspired fantasy, and I'm not gonna really say the synopsis because I do bad at synopsizing already, and I feel like this book is super complicated to understand. But I don't know, I really love the characters, I loved the writing, I loved the world building. Was a little like I said, it was hard for me to understand as like not a very well-versed fantasy reader, but I think the main thing that really put me off about this book was the pacing. Like, the pacing was super different in very different parts of the book, and I also felt like it was super long. Like, there were some parts that kind of dragged a little and I kind of wanted to stop reading, but at the same time I wanted to like know what was going on, so I kept reading. So overall, just mixed opinions about this book, but it was definitely really entertaining. The magic system is something that kind of just you pick your brain over, like you're just like, what is happening, but the characters are definitely the highlight. The romance in this book, oh, I would die for the guy in this book. I forgot his name already, but I would die for him. He is amazing. He needs to be protected. If you've read the second one, let me know down below if the pacing in that one is like better, or if that one just like picks up speed a little bit, because I'm interested in reading the second one because how this one ended, but at the same time I don't know if I could survive another like 400-page book. The next thing that I read which completely took me by surprise, was In the Watchful City by qiouyi Liu. This book was sent to me by Tor, and I think that week I was just really in the mood for some fantasy. So this is an Asian-inspired bio-cyberpunk novella that centers trans, non-binary, queer, and Chinese-coded identities. I know that's like a mouthful, but it was a super diverse novel, super like everything that I kind of wanted at the moment. And this one caught me by surprise. I finished it in one sitting. It's a novella, so it's super short, but this one just kind of like leapt off the page for me. Like, it was so, I felt like I was literally like in a VR headset and I was like in this world. It's literally so cool. I can't describe this world. It talks a lot about like surveillance. It's inspired. It's inspired by an Asian city, I believe, and it's just super cool, the concepts in this. I think this is definitely one of those books where I would also benefit from a reread. I feel like this is one of those books that I'd reread every year to kind of like nitpick details and kind of absorb more of it every year. It was just really beautiful, super transcendent, really reminded me of like the fragility of humanity, because this book talks a lot about like humans and like observing humans, since the main character in this book is kind of like it's like one of the surveyors of this city, so they like surveil the entire city and its people and its inhabitants. So overall, I thought this was a really great read. I feel like I'm not giving star ratings for any of these, but this is a really good one. I really want to hype this up for y'all because Tor puts out the best novellas, best sci-fi fantasy novellas, and I think this one deserves all the hype, and especially because novellas don't get enough attention already, since they're just obviously not as, you know, hyped up as novels. But I would definitely give this a try if you're into like cyberpunk sci-fi fantasy. So the next book that I read is How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao. This book is super interesting. It was pitched as, what was it pitched as? It was pitched as Crazy Rich Asians meets One of Us is Lying. It takes place in this elite prep school where 4 students are forced to face their secrets after one of their ex-best friends turns up dead. I could not see the comparison to Crazy Rich Asians. I think they were, the publishing people were trying a little bit too hard there. It really did not remind me of Crazy Rich Asians. I think they wanted to compare it to that because they were talking about like rich students, rich like Chinese or Asian students, but I overall think it missed the mark there because I feel like it wasn't as extravagant and like, you know, like it wasn't like Crazy Rich Asians. I would much better describe this as Gossip Girl and PLL meets One of Us is Lying. Really heavy on the PLL, the Pretty Little Liars, because this book is like very heavy and Pretty Little Liars inspired. Overall, I wasn't a big fan of the writing in this one. I feel like it's been a while. I don't think I've ever read a YA thriller. Wow, it's been a while. It's been a while since I read a YA thriller, so just jumping back into one, just like reading the writing it took me like out of everything after reading a bunch of adult novels this month. But overall the story was pretty entertaining. I actually thought I was gonna predict the ending. I was like, oh, I'm gonna predict the ending and this book is gonna be so predictable. But I literally did not see the ending coming. It was nowhere in my mind that that ending was coming, so this is actually not a very predictable novel, or maybe I'm just terrible at predicting novels, but I really liked the twists and turns about this, and I also liked how the story itself, though it was a thriller and it was banking on the thrillingness of it, it was definitely centered around mental health and the discussions of mental health awareness in like the Asian community and the Asian like family. So I really enjoyed that. I love when novels tend to do that, especially young adult novels. So I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but overall this is a very entertaining read, and this one is coming out in August, and I will actually be doing an Instagram live discussion with Katie Zhao on Instagram Live on May 28th at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, I believe. I'll leave all the details down below, but I am so excited. I'm going to be on Instagram Live. We're going to gush about her book, and we're going to gush about Asian American literature, and it's going to be super fun. I hope you all join me. The last book that I finished in April was Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This book is amazing. This is one of my favorite books that I read all month. No joke, I'm a slow reader, but I finished this book in 3.5 hours on the same day that I got it because I was just so intrigued by it. This story essentially follows our main character, Medi, and she accidentally kills her blind date, and she enlists the help of her 4 Asian aunties to help her cover the murder, like the accidental murder up. But at the same time, the next morning, all the aunties, they work for like this family business, this wedding catering business, and they have a huge extravagant like wedding to plan for the next day. So all of that like mixing together is just so over the top, so drama filled, so hilarious. Like I don't think I've read a funnier book, and I don't think many books are funny. Like I think like I don't read many comedies. I read a lot of rom-com, but this is definitely like a comedy. I really love the deep dive into Chinese Indonesian culture as well. This book on the outside is not just like a rom-com. It definitely centers on some really great character development of our main character, who breaks out of like her culture and heritage, and she just has such a deep appreciation for her culture, and you can definitely see it in the book when she describes certain things that she loves about Chinese Indonesian culture. Overall, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Please pick it up. I am like telling everyone to pick this up because it will deliver. It is absolutely beautiful and amazing, and definitely read it for May, for the month of May, if you're looking for more Asian lit. This is so good and I can't stop talking about it. Yeah, so those are all the books that I read in the month of April. I am super excited for May to read a bunch of books by Asian American and Pacific Islander authors, and if you have any recommendations, please let me know in the description box down below because I'm preparing my TBR for May and I need to know all of your recommendations because I am just one reader and the recommendations that I have or books that I want to read is very limited from the people that I follow and the outlets that I look at, so please leave any recommendations down below. I will see you all in my next video. Have a great day and bye!